All right. Brad.
Yep, I'm here. No new news from this area. Thanks.
Bonnie?
Here, no news.
Daniel?
Dixie.
Jason Legowski?
Yep, I'm here. No news is good news.
Joe? John? Lois?
I see Lois here. I don't hear her.
I see Lois too.
I think Lois is having mic trouble.
John might be
Down?
too, because I saw him on the list of participants.
All right.
Linda? Lynn McIntosh? Mary Blanchard?
I am here and still waiting to see if we're going to have a meeting yet this year for Holly Township.
Portia? Rick?
Here, no news.
Andy?
I'm here. No news.
Said she wasn't able to join. Patty Baldwin said she wasn't able to join. Stacy Taylor? Teresa? Bill?
I am present. We had a wonderful town hall meeting last Wednesday night in Cadillac. It left a good impression on the concerned citizens that were present. And our LDFA is working very well with the EPA and Eagle. They're getting test results back. There was bad news, and a second citizen has been exposed, another family. It's been there 50 years, and he had a PFOS of 20 and a 5, basically 26 total, but averaging that to a 13. It's an exceedance. They're trying to hook the person up to city water. He doesn't want to. He's 72, does have cancer. And he feels it's from other environmental, not from water, but he's going through that, and his family's supporting him. And I think his brother came to the LDFA meeting. They're just trying to get educated and help him make a good decision. So there's another exposure. 70 wells letters were sent out by the Eagle Group to do a study and get data. They need data badly. I'm not sure, guessing our community is real not excited about sharing their water with the state, but I'd be happy to help in any way. I know a lot of people in town and in those areas, actually. Those were kind of my supporters as mayor, as more of a blue collar candidate. In any event, yeah, the good information, awareness, and well testing's happening up here. And it's unfortunate how it was figured out, but there is a second home, and it's on it's going into Herring Township. The guy's right across the street from the township who has an infected well, and they're moving theirs and extending pipes to the school and going through a lot with a $3 million grant from the state, luckily. With that said, we've just been busy up here. It's been in the news constantly on TV, and the guy's blood work came back, and he's in an elevated area as far as a person drinking this. And the goal of what we're doing in the state is, which is a lot of testing, more probably than other states, but With that said, good news has been going on up here, and I want to thank Eagle and Abby had a fabulous performance up on stage. It's where all our school plays are, and she did well directing the meeting. The public was good, under control, and had legitimate questions. So I was very pleased to see that. And the EPA was there, and they're very bright. So looking forward to having them figure this out in our community and get things straightened around as far as what's going into the Clam River and what people have been exposed to otherwise. So far, so good. Thank you, everybody, for your patience in following the story and your support.
Glad to hear that, Bill. Thank you. Teresa, is that you with your hand up?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Teresa. I couldn't find the unmute button. Yeah, I'm here, and a couple of announcements. We've had some disappointing news. We lost the lawsuit against E.D. Levy. The judge ruled in their favor. So we're talking about mounting an appeal. So that's our next step to consider that. And then also we had 2 or 3 ordinances in the city of Detroit passed despite the objections to community. So we're not having a good success rate on operating down here and things that's happening. So that's all the news I have.
Oh, sorry to hear all that, Teresa. Let us know what we could do to lend a hand. Okay, Kelly. I don't know where you left off.
Gail Dugan. Daniel Burlingame. Dave Wynn. Gail Manswitz. Pam. Richard Burns. Samra. Tony.
Here. And just a couple of announcements. One, a week from tonight, the Department of Defense is hosting a national online town hall listening session to discuss and get feedback on its plans to incorporate the EPA's PFAS drinking water MCLs into its cleanup and remediation activities. The Defense Department issued a memo in September indicating that it's going to prioritize drinking water, impacted water that is at least 3 times above the MCLs, which has raised a lot of questions. But anyways, if any of you would like to join, I can put the link in the chat or email it out. It looks like there's going to be a big turnout from around the country from what we're hearing. On a more local note, in Oscoda tomorrow, the Department of the Air Force has conducted an independent review at the request of the community of one of the cleanup remedies that it has proposed for the site, and the results of that independent review are going to be discussed tomorrow afternoon at an in-person meeting, for which there's also a link, a virtual link for anybody that might be interested in participating, and I'm happy to share that as well. That's all I have. Thanks.
All right. Yeah, I think attending that DoD listening session would be important, if nothing else, just to show that we have power in numbers. John, you've got your hand up, and then Scott. So go ahead, John.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you got me for attendance, and I'd like to, Tony, I'd like to get those links too. That would be very interesting.
Sure.
Can you drop it in the chat?
I'm going to do my best to do that as we proceed here.
I'll see if
Thank
I
you.
can help too.
Sure.
All
And
right.
I was just going to mention that this morning I tried to register and it gave a message that it was sold out.
So Scott,
I reached out and contacted the person who sent the link, and they were having issues that seemingly they resolved because I was able to register later in the day. But if you have problems, you may just want to email them.
Scott, thank you. Thank you for letting me know that, because I'm working with the people who are putting that on, and actually the person to reach is, I don't know if it is Heidi Holst or Christina
Yep.
Harvey, but yeah.
Yeah, I reached
had
out
heard-
to Heidi and she got it going
Okay.
again or fixed the problem or whatever. But I just didn't want anybody who wanted to go be distracted by that. So,
Thank you.
but
All right. So Tony will do his best to get that in the chat, but we'll see. All right, any subcommittee? I don't know if subcommittees had a chance to meet. We'll talk about subcommittees too, but let's see, we had the web design subcommittee. Anything up with the web committee?
Yeah, hi, this is Brad Bedman. We did
Hi,
have
Brad.
our meeting today at 4:30. It was just Rick and myself and Kelly and and Thomas. And we discussed a variety of things. Spent a little bit of time talking about foam, but primarily I just wanted to let you know that we did discuss that as far as the web pages go, web pages are involved. The GIS map is, or they're exploring a way of identifying areas of interest on the GIS map, I guess is a better way of describing it. And that's going to be determined, and it's going to be, we're not sure when that's going to be coming up yet, but that's in the process. So that's about it.
Great, thank you. Let's see, the engaging the public subcommittee. Did that meet?
It did.
Yay.
We met today. It was myself and Rick, Mary, Kelly, Harry, and Brandon. Did I miss anybody?
And Connie.
Connie. I'm so sorry, Connie. And we discussed the results, some of the initial results from the survey, which I know we're going to talk about a little bit more later about your interest as COG members in joining a subcommittee. And then we also discussed the possibility of adding some public engagement education in the form of adding PFAS information and an appropriate health literacy level to some educational materials that are being created for community health workers in the state of Michigan, specifically an online course entitled Climate Impacts for CHWs, and another one entitled Health Equity for CHWs, community health workers. And we're going to add some PFAS information, hopefully, and then also some resources that community health workers as frontline public health workers can share with their clients in marginalized communities and vulnerable populations in regards to becoming more aware of the risks of PFAS, what they are, how they can affect you, and then some resources that they're entitled to use if they do have an issue in their area. And that's about it.
All right. And are you aware of the CME video that's out for education for physicians on PFAS? And I can send you that information if you want to. That may be good to just throw in there as well. So
excellent. Yeah, I'd love to see it. Thank you.
Okay. Lois put in the chat as well that her mic isn't working, but she's wondering if the group would be interested in reading about PFAS in the news. She didn't want to send unwanted emails, but she finds some interesting studies and reports, which sounds like it would fit right in with what you're talking about, Portia, too. So maybe Lois and Portia.
I know I would. Absolutely. I'll put my email in the chat.
Cool.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And then membership committee. Mary, was there anything on membership committee?
No, we did not meet. I did send out a email to Joe and to Daniel, but obviously Daniel was a little busy. He did go on vacation, I think, a while ago, and he has a brand new daughter, Eleanor. So,
all right.
Congratulations, Daniel.
Yes. And Teresa, you got your hand up? Teresa? I think you're looking for the mute button. Well, just jump in. Oh, now you're muted. All right, we'll figure it out. All right, that's it with subcommittees then, I think. Next on the agenda is Rick talking about foam.
Okay. All right, let me get this teed up here. Well, I've never shared anything on Teams before, so let me see if I can figure this out.
Just when you thought you'd mastered everything there was about Zoom, life throws you a new curveball in the form of Microsoft Teams.
Ugh.
So
We've all.
how do you do this? Because
It's the little arrow up right next to the.
I click share, but then it says share content, the presenter mode, add background. I don't see the window that I want to share. That's the.
Kelly,
there
can
it is.
Can you help?
Just click under window.
I take that back.
We see it.
Yay, we have liftoff.
All right, can you see it? All right.
Yep.
Just some background. We had a major foam incident on Muskegon Lake in the fall. And Muskegon Lake is an area of concern, and we're really close to delisting it. So getting it off the area of concern list, we've been working over 20 years to do this. And anytime you have a major environmental event, when you're trying to delist it, it's not a good situation. So there was a lot of public concern about the foam. We've never seen this much foam on the lake before. And then to top it off, we had a controversial development where one of the developers mistakenly dredged an area that wasn't supposed to be dredged. And so we had a dredging incident on a controversial development, and then we had the foam and the delisting. So anyway, I'm part of the technical committee at the Muskegon Lake Watershed Partnership, and we decided, they decided they wanted a little presentation on foam. So this is my presentation. It's got some PFAS 101 slides in it, because this is what I use. They're a little different than what Eagle uses. But anyway, I will start. And what are per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFASs? We have a total of greater than 14,000 chemicals now, and the most recent one that I saw just a couple of weeks ago was 15,000. So very vast number of chemicals, and they're actual products, impurities, precursors, degradation products. So it's not just single compounds, it's polymers. The major players that we typically hear about are PFOS, which is on the top. And that's got a sulfonic acid, the sulfur there. PFOA, which is a carboxylic acid. Those are the two major ones that we're concerned about. PFOA is a carcinogen, and these have been around since 1950s. And a lot of the formulations are not known. They're proprietary. So when you get a drilling fluid or something like that, it'll say, a polyfluorinated alkane or something. So when you buy it, you don't know what it is, and it's very hard to test and determine what it is. And they're resistant to grease, oil, and water, so they repel stains very well. They're also fire suppressants, so that's why they were in AFFF foam. They're persistent, mobile, bioaccumulative, and over the years, they've decided that if we cut the chain length down, so we call the PFOS and PFOA C8 because they're 8 carbon chains. If we cut them down to smaller chunks like the Gen X, which you see at the bottom, it's not going to be as bioaccumulative, and they're thinking it's more safe, but we're finding out that the shorter chains have very similar effects as the long chains. So there's lots of issues where shorter chains down in the Carolinas, Cape Fear area, there's a lot of health issues and concerns related to Gen X, one of the short chain ones. it's used in a lot of different products, and I like this little diagram. Start out with dental floss, because I got stuck on this one. I have teeth that are pretty tight together, and I need really strong dental floss to get in between. And if I don't, my son's a dentist and he hollers at me. But, I used the Glide dental floss, and that's the one that had the most PFAS in it. So, I wasn't planning on getting PFAS with my dental floss, but it was in the product that I bought. And then paints, PFAS is put in paints to make it flow better and increase durability. And most people that buy paint, don't buy it because it's PFAS, but there's definitely paint in the PFAS. Or PFAS in the paint, excuse me. Scotchgard, a lot of the fabric coatings are common. And then car wax, of all things, the Simonized car wax. People that wax cars have higher blood levels of PFAS than people that don't do that. So car washes, car waxing is a source. And there's even a Scotchgard floor wax that people could buy. And, we're thinking, at least in Hamilton, that maybe the area of interest there might be from just septic tank related to a school that wax their floors all the time. So floor wax, ski wax, pots and pans, Teflon coating. There's also impurities in containers. Sometimes people fluorinate the inside of a container to make it more durable to oils, and that will impart PFAS in the container. So that's what happened with pesticides. They used a treated container, and the pesticides contain PFAS. And then the AFFF foam. And we should all remember that lithium-ion batteries and semiconductors use fluorinated compounds too. So we need to be really careful when we go off and decide we want to produce more chips, or we want to make lithium-ion batteries, that we don't let the PFAS get into the wastewater system. We should try and conserve it, capture it right at the process level, and not let it get out into the wastewater system. PFAS sites, there's estimates of 57,000 plus, and we know that's probably low. Michigan has 298 PFAS sites, so we're going over 300 pretty soon, and it's a split between industrial, airports, military sites, wastewater plants, and we know that wastewater plants do not treat PFAS. It passes right through or goes into the biosolids. And wastewater treatment plants often accept landfill leachate, so there's a kind of a circular loop where we throw things away and we think we get rid of them, but then it's in the leachate, it goes into the wastewater system and gets out into the environment. So we just have to be careful with, looking at supply chains, and also looking at how wastes are disposed of, because it can come back in a different form, in a different place, if we're not careful. And when I talk about PFAS, I like to bring up these concerns that I have, or these facts that make PFAS something of concern. First of all, it's water soluble in grams per liter. All the pollutants that we dealt with in the past, with the exception of things like methyl tertiary butyl ether, one of the anti-knock compounds. But, things like lead, heavy metals, PCBs, mercury, they're all very insoluble. This one is soluble, so it spreads and diffuses very readily. It bioaccumulates in plants and animals. A lot of times compounds will accumulate in one, like mercury won't accumulate in plants, but it accumulates in humans. This one accumulates in both. It's not biodegradable, and it binds to proteins and DNA. And then finally, this is a kind of an interesting looking molecule, but this is albumin. And albumin is the major colloidal protein in our blood, so it's a food. And PFAS sticks to that particular compound, so it sticks to one of the major food sources, so it can get into our cells. And our body is sophisticated enough that it doesn't produce large amounts of hormones, but what it does, it produces small amounts, and they attach onto this albumin molecule. So this is a carrier protein too. So it's used as food, but it's also used to carry compounds into our cells. So you can see that it's not a good idea that we have a chemical that sticks to our major food source and also competes with, let's say, antibodies or thyroid hormone or some of our sex hormones, testosterone, estrogen. So those typically would bind on this molecule and get carried into cells, and we've got PFAS hanging around and taking a ride on it. So that's really one of the big concerns that I have about PFAS. And then our bodies, again, are unique because we have a very sophisticated metabolism, and we want to hang on to those extra albumin molecules. So our kidneys reabsorb albumin. If we have high levels of albumin in our blood, we're considered healthy. If we have albumin in our urine, we have kidney failure. So we cannot test PFAS on lab animals and get the same effects as humans because we retain it. Only humans retain it for 4 to 9 years. So that adds to the half-life in our bodies, and it makes it really difficult to find a test animal or a test organism that because all the other organisms excrete it. And the toxicity effects are additive. So a lot of times when you have toxic chemicals, they might compete with each other or affect different systems. But because we're all focusing on this albumin molecule and the sites on that molecule, if you have some PFOA and some PFOS together, they would take up 2 spaces. So there's an additive effect of PFAS in a lot of cases. And then we've got historical releases involving decades of human exposure or multiple generations and life stages. So you add all that up together, and PFAS is something definitely to be concerned about, no doubt about it. In terms of health effects, we have associations between increased exposure and certain health effects. So it's not like lead, where if you have a certain blood lead level, you have lead poisoning. It's just like any like smoking cigarettes or high cholesterol or something like that, which is one of the effects. But if you have a higher cholesterol, you have a higher chance of getting a heart attack. If you smoke, you have a higher chance of getting lung cancer. And PFAS is the same way. If you have higher exposures, you have a higher chance of high cholesterol, decrease in birth weight, lower antibody response, and that's because your antibodies are transported on albumin. Kidney, prostate, ovarian, testicular cancer, pregnancy-induced hypertension, liver enzyme changes, delayed puberty, and thyroid disruption. And then we have to add on to the top of that some of the ways that PFAS can act based on exposure factors. So the dose, the stage of development, if you're carrying a baby, if you're a young child, the frequency, route, duration, individual factors like the sensitivity or chronic disease burden, and then finally other factors like access to safe water and quality health care. So it's really complicated to, when you look at all the different diseases that are associated with PFAS or the different health impacts, and then you have to throw on top of that some of the exposure factors, individual factors, and other healthcare related factors. So it's a complicated picture, and again, more reason to avoid these compounds. Moving on to foam, that's the standard Eagle foam poster, and I think it's pretty good. And I do want to mention in Rockford, we're not allowed to have that poster. They have to have gray on gray, so it doesn't upset people. But that was decided by the city. But I think all the key warnings are pretty good on this poster. And when you look at PFAS foam, the concentrations are always typically large, 1,000, 250,000 in that range. But it's measured as water concentrations in collapsed foam. So it's a very unusual unit. So when you see that number, it's not the foam itself, it's the concentration in the water that foam contains when it collapses. That's just the way we're doing things. We know that PFAS is not absorbed through the skin, so you can wash it off. And it's a contact hazard, but it's one that you can mitigate by washing off. And then how does the PFAS foam form? And I think I had a student that helped come up with these slides with me. And it's pretty interesting because we talk about the hydrophobic head or hydrophobic tail and then the hydrophilic head. So there's two parts of this molecule. This part dissolves in water and this part sticks out of the water. So when you put them in water, you'll see that the head goes into the water and the tail sticks out. And that's how it will orientate itself in water. So you have PFAS that's dissolved in the water, but then you also have PFAS at the surface. And when you have waves and turbulence that force the molecules together, remember PFAS molecules repel just about everything. They repel water, they repel oil, but they will stick to themselves. And molecules generally will stick to themselves. So when you have any type of a force that will break surface tension and will bring these molecules together, you wind up with what we call micelles. And these are just associations of PFAS molecules. So this is what a soap bubble would look like if you look at it on the molecular level. You'd see air trapped in the space, and that air has all the tails sticking out. That's the bubble part. And then you've got the water part with the other part of the molecule sticking in it. So I think this was a pretty good way to try and explain it. It's not really complicated. It happens when you put dish detergent or you put soap in the bathtub, you get the foam. But this is what's happening where the molecules are sticking together. They're forming the micelles, and that makes the foam. So, oops. How does this occur in the water? And one of the ways that we think, at least I think and several others, I'm looking at this as more of a research question. We have something called Langmuir cells. And if you ever look across water bodies sometimes, you'll see lines of white foam. And this was described back in the late 1900s by Langmuir, who's a famous physicist. But when you have wind blowing across water, it creates circulation patterns. And these circulation patterns create rows of debris. And one of the famous ocean experts, I think he was the one that discovered the North Pole, Cook, noticed this when he was traveling through the Sargasso Sea. He noticed these cells being formed, and then Langmuir, the physicist, was able to come up with the math. But you will see these lines of debris forming, and then if the wind is blowing in a certain way, it can, as in the bottom picture, it can be transported across the surface. So this is one of the reasons that we actually observed in Muskegon Lake that was happening. And I just got some pictures. This is Cedar Lake in Oscoda, and if you look closely, you can see those Langmuir cells, these bands of foam going across the lake. And this is a more close-up picture from Muskegon Lake. You can see bands of the foam forming. So I think this Langmuir pattern is significant in bringing PFAS molecules together and then making the foam. I also went to a seminar recently, and this wonderful diagram was in there talking about foam and wastewater. But if you have a situation like wastewater where you're putting aeration in there, or even like a dam, you're generating a lot of bubbles, and those bubbles will pick up PFAS and then bring it to the surface in the foam. So I thought this was a nice little it's probably better than my albumin molecule floating around, but that kind of makes you dizzy. But I think this one is a nice description. And when you look at our classic example in Rockford, you can just see the water cascading over that dam, and then all those bubbles are going underneath the surface, and then they're coming up, and you wind up with floating mats of foam. And we indeed have about 244 cubic feet per second of water going over the dam. It's not a big dam, but it's certainly significant flow. That works out to 6,899 liters per second. And if you wanted to try and look at how much molecules, if at 10 parts per trillion of PFOS or PFOA, you'd still have 12 trillion molecules at 10 parts per trillion. So there's a lot of molecules, and people talk about, well, foam is occurring at very low concentrations. But when you think about the number of molecules and you think about events that are putting bubbles into the system, like the dam, or when you think about the Langmuir cells out in the lake, bringing water together all the time, there's definitely mechanisms that can create foam and build onto this PFAS foam problem that we're seeing. So this is a brief tour of Muskegon Lake. This is on the north side, and we don't have a lot of foam reports on the north side, but you could see foam accumulating on the shoreline, and you can see another band of foam. This was in a park. This is in a private area over here, but you can see foam occurring on the lake and then being advected to the shore. This is inside a marina, and this is a combination of PFAS foam and cyanobacteria scum. So nice combination, but that's what that looks like inside of a marina. This was at a boat launch, and you can see the boat launches, and then there's areas also in the adjacent marina that have the foam accumulating. This was at a public beach near the channel out to Lake Michigan, and this was right next to our water institute. So we've never seen anything like this before. And, I worked there for 29 years, and we never, saw this kind of a foam buildup before. So it's something unique this year. This was I don't want to say the best foam, but this was just off the charts with kind of a cove. You had the metal riprap, and the foam just built into pillows like you see here. And you can see it coming in off the lake and then, sort of attracted to itself or building up with itself as you go in. And there's some more of these Langmuir cells that we're talking about. So definitely had a major foam incident on Muskegon Lake, and it was never like that before, at least as long as I've been there. So what can cause the foam? We certainly have the wave action in the open water and along the shoreline that can produce foam. And we also know Muskegon Lake has a complex shoreline that's prone to the accumulation of surface scums from harmful algal blooms. So, if harmful algal blooms are kind of like PFAS, where the algae or the cyanobacteria will float to the surface, and then they'll get blown into the shore, and that's where you get that scum buildup. We've got the same thing with the PFAS molecules and then the Langmuir cells. We've got a number of PFAS sites. We also have very complex hydrodynamics, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But it's important to look at the data. So we have a 2022 PFAS investigation of Muskegon Lake and some fish data. So I wanted to look at PFAS sites first, and we certainly have our share of potential PFAS sites and existing PFAS sites. One that people are concerned about is the old paper mill. And this paper mill didn't, use PFAS by design, but they made high quality bond paper. So they had to have a coating on that paper to make the ink look nice and crisp. And unfortunately, that turned out to be PFAS. But we've got the Amoco terminal. So we have a big old petroleum terminal. We have foundries. We have Teledyne Continental Motors. So there's just, I think there's like 15 different potential sources out there that could be causing PFAS foam in the lake. So it could be any one of these, it could be all of them together, but we don't know. In terms of concentrations, this was what the Eagle study found. We had 13 parts per trillion, and over 12 is the water quality standard. So there was 13 parts per trillion in one of our tributaries, 12 in another tributary, 17 in another one. So we had 3 tributaries that were over the water quality standard, and these tributaries all go into the lake, and the flow of the lake is in this direction. So we've got the Muskegon River flowing right through the middle of the lake. So things that are here can get advected here, and then if we have wind coming from this direction, you can move, PFAS in the opposite direction. So it's again complicated. We also had a fish survey, and these were the fish testing results that we had. So what I did was I looked at the information in the Eat Safe Fish guidelines, and based on the concentrations that we have, they're somewhere around 4 to 8 meals per month, as far as what you'd if there'd be an advisory for PFAS. And then if you looked at what advisories are in place, you can see that there's already a PFAS advisory 6 meals per year because of PCBs. So we do have PFAS in the fish. It's not terribly high. So based on the concentrations of the tributaries, the Eagle study, and the concentrations in the fish, at least historically, there's really not a reason for us to have that big foam event. So it can either be the fact that we have unusual meteorological conditions this year that made the foam, or something happened specifically this year. There's nothing to say that we had all these sources and the PFAS accumulated in the fish, which you would have expected, or you'd see it in the water. So we wanted to look then at the bathymetry, or the circulation of the lake, and this is a paper that our institute did. But Muskegon Lake is a drowned river mouth lake, so it has a channel flowing through it. It was once a river flowing into Lake Michigan, but then it got closed off by sand dunes, and you can see the river channel here, and you could also see Bear Lake has another channel. So we've got 2 depressions or river channels within the whole lake boundary. And then we had this event that we monitored. We have a buoy in Muskegon Lake, and unfortunately the buoy was taken out in 2020, so we no longer have monitoring, which would have helped us with this foam event. But you can see that on August 31st, the water was 23 degrees, and then we had a big west wind coming out of the west. You can see the cold water coming into Muskegon Lake. So that's 15-degree water centigrade versus 23 degrees. So it was quite warm, and then you get this cold water coming in. And you can see it kind of filling up that channel going into Bear Lake, and then you can see it moving down in this direction. So even 10 days, 11 days after that event, you can still see the effects and the change in the temperature of Muskegon Lake from that. And the reason why that's important is this is showing that you've got flows in addition to the water, flowing from the Muskegon River out the channel. You've got this counter current that'll flow in the opposite direction. So again, is the PFAS foam coming from sources up in the lake, or is it coming from sources near the channel that's being blown up into the major part of the lake? We don't know, but that's some of the complexities that we're dealing with as far as the formation of the foam. So the question is the 2024 foam event from increased concentrations or just unusual meteorological conditions? And we don't know that. So what we have to do is either review the meteorological data and compare it to previous years. We had a lot of advisories for rip currents on the main lake just about every day there was. So we had quite a bit of wind coming off the lake. We also had north winds during the time of the foam event. So it could be meteorological conditions. But if the foam persists and we see it again, what we should do is look at that 2022 study and repeat that just to see if the concentrations changed. We have those long-term monitoring sites that we monitor with our buoy, and we should do some additional monitoring in the lake. We can collect another set of fish samples to see if there was a change, and that was picked up in the fish. And then we really need to look at all the 201 sites and see if there is PFAS associated with some of those 201 sites, and also try and see if there was any heavy construction along the shoreline. So, we don't know what caused the foam event. We have some data from fish samples and from the Eagle study that shows that we didn't have a PFAS problem, but there still could be some unknown, some unique meteorological effects that caused this foam event. So don't really have an answer to why we had the foam event, but we know that Muskegon Lake doesn't really have a big problem with PFAS in the past, and we just have to keep watching it and determine whether it comes back next year. And it could also be the harmful algal blooms and the PFAS acting together. So, foam is a mystery in terms of why it occurred with such a level this time. But, there's tools, remote sensing tools and other things that we can do to watch it. And, we do encourage people to report the foam events. And, just talking with the residents when I presented this at the meeting, they were mentioning that they were sitting on their decks and watching lines of foam going across the lake. So that kind of confirms that it might be those Langmuir cells that are causing the foam formation. So that's it. So any questions on foam, I'll be glad to, answer them.
John's got his hand up. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was just wondering where we might find that results of that 2022 study. I was just doing a quick brief web search while you were talking there, and it wasn't obvious to me that we could get access to it.
Yeah, I was going to say, unfortunately, it's not been posted yet. Eagle did do a presentation on the 2022 study to our Muskegon Lake Watershed Advisory Committee. So we did get a presentation, and I do have a couple slides from that if you send me an email, I can send that to you. But it's not been formalized in an actual report yet.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Bill Barnett.
Sorry. Just curious, I did read about the foam in the lake, but I didn't hear the reason. I didn't hear the results of the tests and the levels and that sort of thing, and the fact that it was PFAS. Well,
the test was kind of complicated because I've left the Water Institute, and they went out and sampled without talking to me, so the sample wasn't collected in the same manner that all the other Eagle samples was collected, and it's kind of a long explanation, but the foam level was actually pretty low. I think it was maybe 4,000 of PFOS, so it's low for a foam concentration, and I'm not sure that if it was sampled right, it might have been higher. I don't know, but it was definitely PFAS foam. I mean, you could go out there and pick it up. It was like shaving cream and things like that. So we just don't have a good concentration number on it. And the Water Institute paid for the one test, and then they didn't want to pay for a test with another test with the actual method. So we're kind of lacking a concentration estimate. So
does Eagle have a organized foam testing program or data throughout the state relative to foam?
Well, I can answer that a little bit. Maybe someone else from Eagle wants to chime in, but before they would actually, you turned in a foam report and somebody would come out and they would collect a sample and test it. Starting, I think this year, they decided that typically when there's a foam report, it's typically PFAS foam. So they're no longer testing the foam. But you can turn in a report for PFAS foam that's being tracked, but there's no longer a group that will go out, or there's no longer a mechanism to have the foam tested. But I know, like the Huron River Watershed group did some foam testing. I think they must have paid for their own testing to have that. So it's being done privately now, or by watershed groups or by individuals.
Thank you.
Marcus, did you want to say something, or did you drop something in the chat?
No, I just put the where to report foam on the
perfect.
MPART website. I put that in the chat. You can see that. And I believe there's also the foam report, the AECOM Eagle foam report on the same website.
Great.
Yeah, and there's also a nice Excel spreadsheet that you can download. And, we were downloading that and looking at foam. You can sort it by location and concentrations and things like that. So there's probably about 100 and some foam data points in that Excel spreadsheet that you can look at.
John, you got?
Yeah. Sorry. Hey, Rick. Thanks. This is John. You in some of the early slides, you mentioned some of the health risks. I mean, how does one go about? I'm a little naive about some of the health risks. Now, I'm getting a number of my neighbors asking me, since we're right adjacent to the landfill here, where might you point us to understand better what the health risks are from PFAS and affiliated compounds?
Well, there's a lot of information on the MPART website. There's the information for physicians. There's an educational package for health providers and physicians that you can read. That's got information for healthcare people, but it's also, I think, pretty readily understandable to the general public. So. There's a number of sources. I follow certain researchers, like Linda Beerbaum is a very well-known researcher, and I got some information from a couple of her presentations. I put those together on mine, cited hers. So, but there's some really good review papers, but they're pretty heavy in science. But I think that information for clinicians and healthcare providers, that's a nice reference, because it gets into symptoms and different ways PFAS can affect humans. So I think that's a good starting point to read.
Okay, thanks, Rick.
And John, I think we had Dr. Duckman here a couple of months ago, and he did a presentation as well. So I bet we have that somewhere. I think, Kelly, don't we have those recorded or something? So we may be able to find it.
Yeah, I must have missed that one.
Yeah, that was a really good presentation too.
And there's Marcus yet again putting more information in the chat. So there's another good resource there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think Mike Jury put in the Muskegon study, foam study reports. So.
Great. Any other questions for Rick? All right. Well, thank you, Rick.
Yeah, thank you.
Love the pictures of that billowing foam.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not doing anything nearly as fancy as Rick, let me tell you. But I did have an opportunity in October to go to New York and go to the United Nations and speak and meet with a group of people about environmental activists as human rights defenders, especially people that are trying to push for clean water, cleaning our ocean, all those things. There was myself and 3 other people from the National PFAS Contamination Coalition there, along with others, talking about environmental issues. And one of the things that the UN is taking quite seriously is countries that are pushing back against people pushing for environmental reform those of us doing that are sometimes getting a lot of blowback. In America, we get it mostly from corporations in the form of legal, suits against us. But in other countries, it can be anything from killing people to ostracizing people to jailing people. So it was an interesting take on the work that we've all been doing on pushing for this. They kind of had us, Emily Donovan spoke specifically at the hearing, and we had a person, Mary Lawler, who was the special rapporteur, who also spoke. So I will drop those links into the chat of some of the video of it and stuff, but I just wanted to let people know this isn't just a Michigan problem or a US problem, but it really is a national problem that's getting a lot of attention now. So that was good to see and kind of cool to do. And if you ever have a chance, go to the United Nations. They even have their own bookstore, which I thought was amazing. So, oh, Abby, go ahead.
Well, hi, Sandy. Sorry, I'm late. So super excited about that opportunity for you. Did you get to speak in front of the whole forum or just at a conference room at the UN, or what was that like?
So what it was we had a breakfast session with a lot of other groups. So the ACLU was there, Amnesty International, just a whole bunch of groups there that we were able to meet and talk about and brainstorm ideas. Then we had a couple other meetings with people. The group that Emily spoke with, another gentleman from Brazil who was there. It wasn't the full committee, that's only, or the full session. That's only for special rapporteurs and actual important people. But but we did get into a room, and there was probably 100 people there or so from different countries that were listening, and
did you all get the headphones with the translators?
I did. I had one of those little ear headphones. We didn't have to use it, but I did have one of those ear headphones. I wanted to steal it, but they kind of watch you pretty closely, so I didn't get to.
Frisky on the way in and the way out. That's exciting.
They pretty much do, yeah. So, and then that evening we had a reception again with a bunch of other people, a bunch of diplomats from a bunch of other countries, talking about human rights defenders. And I just thought it was an interesting way to look at what we do as human rights defenders, because they're starting to look more and more at environmental activists are human rights defenders. So that was kind of
I
neat.
like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it shows we don't always see the ripple effects of the things that we do to protect others, but there are definitely ripple effects in the greater world. And so kudos to everybody on this group that's working towards those things in all the ways that you do, because not everything's about PFAS, right? But we have lots of ripple effects, lots of environmental and social justice issues that we all work on. So
yes. Yeah. Mary, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to, you and I had shared a conversation when you got back from the UN, and you talked about a young man who came from a foreign country, and that many of the people in that country had been impacted. And I wonder if you could share that, because in the Engaging the Public subcommittee, Harry Castle was talking about the fact that human stories, have such an impact.
Yeah, this young man was just amazing. We met him the first night in our hotel, because there were many of us staying in the same hotel. And he was from Brazil. He was 22, 23 years old, I think, and had been flown there by a group to speak. I was not aware that Brazil was very big into the slave trade years ago, obviously, many, many years ago. And his family was part of that. And Brazil has been able to do reparations to those involved in slavery. And as a part of the reparations that they received, it was farmland in Brazil. Well, as a result of that, this young man has lost, his parents have been murdered. I think his grandfather has been murdered. just horrible things have happened. And it's not clear if it's the government or if it's industry. It's not clear who is doing this, but obviously this young man just demonstrated such bravery to fly to New York and talk at the United Nations and see the work that they do as well as a human rights defender and the effects that he has had from that. You know, talk about it was quite a difference between what we were talking about and what he was talking about. And the United Nations, I think, did that as a way to show that defending human rights across the world can look very, very, very different. And all of it is very important. So he was just a really inspiring young guy. We kind of adopted him and made him follow us around and bought him dinner and made sure he didn't get, you know, scammed or anything like that, because it was New York City. So yeah. So I dropped the
fantastic.
The interview and the stuff in there, so you can see it if you want. It was just an interesting journey. So all right, that's all I have. Abby, do you have any MPART updates? Or oh wait, Teresa's got her hand up.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on with my phone. I just wanted to share that the PFAS issue has made it to Hollywood. Just yesterday, they had a show on called High Potential, and it featured PFAS.
Whoa.
Wow.
And yeah, and what happened when it first came on, they were investigating a murder of a young up-and-coming CEO of a company, and on the mirror or across the wall, it had forever. And finally, when they figured out what forever meant, it was talking about forever chemicals.
No way.
So,
wow.
Yes, yes. This young lady, they found out that PFAS exposure causes asthma. And this little boy was being harmed through these studies that this big company was doing on their product. And the substance was PFAS that was harming the people. So yeah, it's called High Potential. It's, you know, it's a little detective show. So if you ever get the chance to recap it, it's talking about a CEO that knew about PFAS, knew about the dangers, and knew about the harms, and people wanted to expose it, and she didn't want them to, and she ended up dead. So that's what it's about.
Wow.
Yeah. So
holy smokes.
Sandy, yeah, I want to thank you for that, sharing that story about that young man from Brazil. It's so heartening to realize that the harms that are happening to people in other countries. And, you know, we talk about PFAS exposure and things like that. And we don't often, we forget about other people that are suffering serious, we suffer serious, but the atrocities that they are facing today in their country. So thank you for that, Sandy.
Yes. I have to say, we met him that night and heard his story, and we all kind of looked at each other like, we can't speak at the UN after this gentleman. His story is like, what are we going to say? Like, oh, my water's bad and now I have to pay for a filter. Like, you can't say that. So we literally had to go and redo our, you know, what we were talking about because of that very thing, Teresa. Like, for us, this is really bad, but it really pales in comparison to what many people in the world are going through. So it was really humbling to go and hear that and see it, but also kind of invigorating because you realize that it's such an important thing as well. So yeah.
Inspirational.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Abby, you got some updates?
I was not supposed to be here. My other meeting got canceled at the very last minute. So Amy prepared to do updates. I'm going to let Amy do her little updates, and then I can be available for questions because I didn't even look at these slides.
Yeah, so we didn't prepare any slides because there were only two, well, one site and one area of interest. And then one area of interest, you know, Bill Barnett already touched on. That's a Cadillac Industrial Park area of interest. And we had that information go live prior to the town hall last week. Spent a fair amount of time preparing for that town hall and working with EPA and City of Cadillac and other people. So I think everybody was pretty well informed about that. As a result of people signing in to the town hall, we've created now a distribution list from the town hall, and Miranda Triolet, who works with us now full time, sent out an email today to all the people who again left their emails for us at the sign in at the town hall, and we sent them the PowerPoint presentation. And we will also use that to update people as we get some residential well results. Again, we'll send them a heat map or something to, obviously not individual results, but some kind of heat map to show kind of what the results are showing us. We'll also let them know that we are going to be starting another investigation in another part of Cadillac near US 131 Mackinac Trail area. And so we're working on another area of interest in that part of the city as well. So we will get that information out to people as that kind of moves forward. We're kind of finalizing a residential well sampling plan for that one. So that was the first one. And then the only other one that we added in the last month was the Michigan Disposal Superfund site. That is in Kalamazoo. Maximum concentration there was 210 parts per trillion PFOS, which we compared to 16. As with any other site, Eagle, DHHS, local health looked at nearby drinking water wells. Due to the proximity, the depth of the wells, the composition of the soil, etc., they decided that none of the wells needed to be sampled. As usual, we sent our write-up out to local officials, and we had, I believe it was Representative Julie Rogers asked for a call. So we had the call, obviously, with her and other local officials and legislators on the 30th. And during that, she expressed a lot of interest in having some additional outreach happening to the community, mentioned the idea of a town hall. And so we started a conversation last Friday, kind of talking about that a little bit further, and kind of have come to the conclusion that unless you have a big interest in maybe even a controversial topic, we don't really get a lot of people participating in some of our town halls. So we're looking at other ideas now, and I think that group is going to get back together again on the 21st of this month to start looking at other ways of getting information out to the people in the community. So that conversation will involve the city and the county and DHHS and Eagle and a whole bunch of people who met last week to talk about that same thing. So we'll nail down some kind of outreach plan for that. So Abby, I don't know if you want to embellish that at all, but
yeah, on that one, we were going to broaden it to not just be about that one site, because there isn't that much controversy about that one site. We were talking about I think we wanted to expand it to talk about the Kalamazoo area in general, because there's a lot of MPART sites in that area. There's, all kinds of issues, just like all of our major cities have. And so if you were going to do something, you would want to make it broad enough to be able to be informative to a lot of people in the area. Then we were talking about potentially, chopping it up into smaller sections of something that could be recorded. And so instead of having to have people watch a full hour or an hour and a half worth of webinar type thing, they could take and say, here's a little chunk on this, here's a little chunk on that. And we were going to first do some reach. Well, one of the ideas, I won't say any of this is firm. We're still in the talking stages, but one of the ideas was to reach out to the Kalamazoo River CAG down there, talk to them about what kinds of PFAS questions they might have. There's a couple of other environmental groups down in that Kalamazoo area that we wanted to reach out to, or the city was going to reach out to, and just ask to see what kinds of PFAS related questions they had, and see where we want to focus our efforts to make sure we're actually addressing the needs of the community. So that's something that we'll be working on. Probably won't do any kind of actual webinar or anything like that till after the first of the year, but we want, planning and preparation takes a lot of time to do a good job. So that's where we're going to start heading for that one. And Teresa, your hand's up. Did you have a question, or is that just a residual hand?
Residual hand, I'll lower it.
Okay. And then the other thing I'll just mention before we get off is that less than a month now, we're going to have our PFAS, our Great Lakes PFAS Summit. We are talking about December 3rd, 4th, and 5th, virtual. This group, our Citizens Advisory Work Group, gets in for free. And so if you haven't seen or you haven't registered yet, you can put in, Kelly will put it in the chat for me, PFAS-comp is your coupon code to put in and get a free entrance into that meeting. So yeah, it's well worth the time. It is 3 days, but it's well worth the time. We're also going to be doing, upon request, we're going to be doing a PFAS 101 session that'll be opened to everybody. It's part of the conference, but it's not, I think we're going to just open it up, or at least that's my hope, is we're going to open it up. A PFAS 101 for, the beginners to intermediate. We probably won't get very advanced in an hour, but we're going to try to do a real basic PFAS 101 for people to catch up, because you guys are really well up to speed. And I would say even at the advanced stage now, we've got many of our state partners across the country that are just starting on PFAS. And, my goal with this particular conference is just to get as much information out there as we can, to get as many people up to speed and get their knowledge base ready to go to take action in their own states and their own communities. So anyways, sign up for that. And I think those were all the things that we had on our list of updates. Amy covered the big ones, and that's the only thing I got.
All right. Moving us along here, there was talk of us doing an in-person meeting for the COG. And we were trying to throw that together, but then November came and then we got the holidays and goodness gracious. So I would like to suggest that we don't meet in December because it's the holidays and it's busy. But also we should set up, if people are interested, we could set up a time that we could do an in-person meeting. We could do that virtually, kind of a combo, I think. Didn't we talk about that, Abby, that we could do a hybrid in-person?
Yeah, I mean, we'd like to do it we'd like to do it in person,
Yeah.
but certainly we could figure out some things so that if people can't meet, it probably would be one of those, we'll have to figure out what the content of that meeting would be, but yeah.
So
we've got options.
If people are interested, I would propose we hold off and do that until spring when the weather is a little better. But I don't know with our weather, who knows? I mean,
I know.
This could be summer now. So any thoughts or suggestions or talk about that or questions? Teresa, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I like your suggestion about holding off to the spring. Also, December 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, I'll be traveling, so I won't be able to make the conference.
Right.
You can still register, Teresa, and you have up to 90 days to watch the videos.
Okay, so send the link and I'll register, and then I can watch it at my leisure when I'm back. Well, I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. I think Kelly probably already has sent the link, but she can resend it again just to make sure everybody's got it. It's on our Eagle website. So
there it is.
Yep, it's right on the front page of the MPART website. So all you gotta do is click on that and then register and then put in that PFAS comp code and you'll be in. And then once you're registered, you'll have access to those recordings. I want to say it's 3 months to watch them all.
Okay. So are people in favor of not meeting in December then? Or let me phrase it this way. Who is opposed to not meeting in December? Anyone?
Hearing no objections.
That's what I'm thinking. Okay. So we will reconvene in January then. And in January, let's talk about where we could do our in-person meeting, what time of day would be best for that, what we would accomplish by doing that, and a location. Thank you, Mary, for putting in there. She's good with not meeting in December. Okay, then Kelly and Portia, you want to talk about the survey?
Sure. I believe Kelly has the results. Is that Kelly sharing her screen?
Kelly, is that you?
Yeah,
Is
Kelly's
Kelly in the
sharing.
room with us?
Is Kelly awake?
Kelly has a lot of trouble with her microphone, so she may be talking and you just may not be able to hear her because she's got a really bad computer for some reason. So, looks like 16 members responded, 10 members able to participate on one or more of the subcommittees. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes. And we did just want to tell folks that if you receive the link and you have not yet filled it out or you started to fill it out, when you first open the page, it asks you 2 questions. And so you might think, oh, well, I don't need to answer this because I'm already on a subcommittee. But if you provide your first and last name on the form and then click yes, it actually opens up another series of questions. And so some people might see those first 2 questions and say, I don't need to take the survey. And I was one of those people because I thought it was just those first 2 questions. And obviously, everybody knows I'm already on the public engagement subcommittee. So we just wanted to let you know if you would still like to complete this survey, go ahead and click on the link. It was sent to you again today, I believe. And when you open it, provide your first and last name. And then if you are interested, you can click yes. And then it's going to show you a variety of different subcommittees to choose from. So you can choose one or more of those. And then as you scroll down, you can choose the time of day that works best for you. And then when you get to the last one, you will have to choose the least likely day for you to join. So for myself, I just put Friday, but you do have to select one of those days as your least favorite before you can submit. And then once we get those, we may consider rearranging the times of the subcommittees because right now they are currently being held before the monthly meeting that's already 2 hours long in the evening. And for some people, that might be just a little bit too much, right? So you've got 2 hours already in the evening. So we could always rearrange it to be a different time of day, a different day completely, and also on a different week. So instead of having it on the second Tuesday, we could do the third Thursday, for example. So we are flexible to work for people to rearrange the schedule to make it work for the most people so we can increase participation in these subcommittees. And I don't know if anyone else has anything else to add to that. If not, we still do have a few people that need to fill out the survey. If you'd like to tell us or message us in the chat, we can always add your responses that way. Or you can always email me. My email's in the chat, and just let me know what your preferences are, and I can fill it out for you. I think Mary has her hand up. Mary?
Thank you. Yep, I just wanted to say, Portia, that we had talked about the fact that once the subcommittees are actually formed with the number of people who are going to participate, then we will send out another poll so that those particular members can choose the time that would work best for that particular group. So, we trying to be open with everybody's time. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Does anyone else? I think I see another hand up, but I'm not sure if it was up from before. Abby or Sandy.
I think that might be Teresa.
Is your hand up to, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I know people are really busy, but I really would like, if we could get everybody to commit to at least one subcommittee, it would be really good. I think it would really broaden what we do here. And so I would just kind of beg people to, if you can find time to just commit to one subcommittee, that would be great. So, and I have to say, engaging the public subcommittee is really public notification in disguise, right? The one that's assisting communities is a different one than engaging the public. Is that right?
I thought it was both, but I defer to whatever decision the group makes.
I just wanted to make sure, because there was a lot of talk of public notification. So if people were really interested in that, I want to make sure that they
I assume
sign up.
notification was a part of public engagement, was a
Okay.
component of it. But if I'm wrong, I'm happy to, change whatever needs
Sure.
changed. So you guys just let me know what's decided and we'll make it happen.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because that rolls us into the final discussion, which is once these subcommittees get going, I think it would be great to make sure every subcommittee has an idea of what their goals are and how they're planning on reaching them so that it's kind of clear as we're making progress over the next year. I don't think we can do that now because we don't even have committees put together, but that's sort of what I'm envisioning. Is that what everybody else is envisioning too? Or do people have other ideas of how we would determine progress on these?
I think that's a great idea. So defining goals and coming up with some objectives. Usually we do that
Yes.
yearly and then review them quarterly and work towards them monthly. I think it's a great idea once we get all the people on the bus and in the right
Yep.
seats.
All right. That is all I have in my agenda. Is there, oh, John's got his hand up.
I would just want to make sure that, how do you check to see that the survey went through? That you guys got my input. I just wanted to make sure.
Kelly can check it. I know it takes a minute to process because we did mine in real time during our committee meeting, and she could see that something was submitted, but it hadn't crossed over to the other side.
Yeah. I apologize for missing it today. I had a previous commitment, but
Oh, yep,
I
it
just
came
want
through.
Great. Thank you.
Kelly, I've had this problem before also where you try to unmute yourself and you can't. So I can see Kelly is moving the Ouija board pieces as we speak. You verbalize your request and the Ouija board is moving and showing you what has happened. So thank you for that, Kelly. We appreciate you, even though you've been silenced by Teams. Yeah. Okay. So any other questions about that? It's absolutely not too late. Click on that. It's just a couple of questions. We would love to have you engaging the public. We can always include assisting the public within that. We seem to have the most people. So if we had to collapse two different subcommittees into one, I think that would probably be the best one to do it because, we have 8 members so far and we have a good time. So I don't want to sell it too hard, but we do have a nice time in the subcommittee and it goes really fast. So we'd like to meet for an hour once a month. And as long as we have something to cover, we will take up that time. And if not, we don't. So yeah, it's not too late to fill out that survey, everyone. So if you have a chance, go in. It should only take you a minute or so.
Perfect. Thank you. And with that, I don't have anything else on the agenda. If people have other things they want to talk about, if Daniel Brown wants to show us baby pictures or if there's any other important things we need to talk about, or you can get a half hour of your life back and we can just call it a night. So.
Thank you, Sandy, and thanks to everybody who submitted information. Thanks.
Yes.
And thanks, Rick, for that great presentation.
And I do think that baby pictures are a requirement before Dan comes back after the new year. If he doesn't have any today, it's understandable, but.
I was trying to get into the Photos app on my phone to pull one up here real quick.
Oh, we can wait. We got time. We
Oh,
can
I
wait.
can wait for baby pictures.
No pressure, no pressure. Or you could just put the baby up in front of the camera.
Right.
Whichever.
I mean, that's what
We don't
people
need a
used to do.
picture. We could just have live. That would be all right too.
Or you're probably busy, Daniel, so I could give you that too, that you could just like send them and
All
Kelly
right,
can
let's
send
see
them
if
out.
this, I've never tried doing this before. Gonna drop it in the chat here.
See if it works.
Oh, there he is. Both of them.
Oh, that's stinking cute.
I love it.
So I missed the first half. 2 boys or a boy and a girl?
We have the toddler boy and new baby girl.
All right.
Oh, so you'll be a little busy. All right. Cool.
Love it. Congratulations.
All right, everyone. Well, have a wonderful holiday season. And we will I'm sure we'll be on the emails, but everybody have a great holiday and I'll see you next year.
Thanks, everybody.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
God bless. Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Bye.